In today's video, we're going to be reviewing checklist templates within the Legendary Supply Chain application. Before we jump into how to set up a checklist template, let's look at a real-world example of how we would use checklists. So on our service request 1026, we are doing a preventive maintenance event for our GMC Sierra. And I'm just going to go over here real quick to checklists, and we're going to start a new checklist. Here I can see all of my active checklist templates. In your individual environments, you can set up custom filters to only show the applicable checklist templates related to this record. And these checklists and checklist templates can be used on any Salesforce object. So we're going to go ahead and select the automotive oil change template here. Here I can see all of my fields and our different input types, which are set up on our checklist templates. I can go in here and see all of my sections, and I can filter to a specific section as opposed to seeing the entire checklist at once. I can fill out my required fields. You can do, again, different field types. So I'll do today. We can validate our equipment number here. I can say we checked the oil, checked our transmission fluid. Let's say it's at 4,937. We checked our air filter. Replace the oil, replace the oil filter. We said the air filter looked okay. Rotate the tires, and then we can put any notes in regards to this event here as well. And I can save this checklist right here on my service request, and now this checklist will be here forever. If I go back, I'll now be able to see that that checklist is saved here, associated to this service request. I can now do another checklist, or I can jump right into this checklist if I need to make any modifications here. So that is just an example as to how we would use checklists within Legendary Supply Chain. Now let's look at how we would set up the checklist templates. So I'm going to go over here to our Legendary Admin app. You can also navigate here just by going to the Checklist Templates tab, so long as you have permission to access checklist templates. And let's look at this example checklist we have. So here are a couple of fields you'll notice. We have the name of the checklist template, which will be what shows up for the user to select when creating a new checklist. You also have your stage here, which you can customize as far as the stages you want to use in those filters for the user template selection. And then we have our tags, and this is one of those things that you can use in order to filter your checklist templates based on the record type or the scenario or maybe some of the parent fields whenever selecting a particular checklist template. You can also define your notes and description. And then we have a couple of settings here. So we have inherit new template items, which is going to say whenever we load up that checklist, do we want to inherit any new template items that have been added to the checklist template since time of checklist creation? By default, this is set to no, but that is something you can change on every checklist template. We also have include deactivated template items, which means that if a template item has been deactivated but was included on the original checklist at time of creation, do you still want to include it whenever that checklist renders? As well as enable section filtering, and this is where on our checklist we were able to toggle those sections, and we can make that none enabled, meaning you have to select an individual section, or optional, which is the example we were looking at previously, where we could use it but we did not have to use that section filtering. Now let's look at this example checklist real quick. So this was a customer onboarding checklist. We can capture some text fields here. We can capture date field. We also have yes, no toggles here, as well as file uploads that we can perform with expiration dates, checkboxes, date time fields, so we can specify those specific date times, as well as number fields, percent fields, pick list options, date ranges, number ranges, rich text fields, even individual time fields. And this is just an example of some of the different input types you can use in your checklist templates. So now how do we add checklist template items? And that's right here on our template items, where we can go in and see all of the items here associated to this checklist template. I can also change the rows that this is showing me. So let's say I want to see 200, so I can see more here. And this is going to show me all of these in order. And so it'll show me the name of the template, it'll show me the order number, show me the label it's going to display to the user, which is generally the same as the name. The only time it would not be is if the label was greater than 80 characters, in which case the name of the record would be the 80 characters because that is the text limit of a name field, but the label that we show to the user can be up to 255 characters. We also have the status field, which will make this item active or deactivated, as well as our types, which is going to impact how those fields render and the information that's required. We can also specify whether or not they are required. We can put in those pick list values separated by commas and any notes about these items. If we also need to make any changes, I can click this icon right here and edit my checklist template item. And then if I need to add new items, I can also just go right here to entry. I can put in my field order. I recommend skipping in groups of 10 to 20 as far as whenever you create a new section, just in order to be able to have that buffer if you need to change the order around. I can put in my label for wherever we need our new field to be, and then I can select the type of field that we are going to render. Then I can also set up the size of the field. So we have our sizes as small, medium, large. You can also think of this as mobile, tablet, and desktop as far as the sizing, and that will auto render based on the size of the device and resize accordingly. Then you can also specify whether or not it is required. You can put in those pick list values as well as any notes. And this is all using our search components with our dynamic entry screens. And something else to note in regards to how the checklist is going to render whenever it's time to input that checklist is we're going to have all of our items fall below a section. So if you put in a row for a section, everything in between, all of the checklist template items in between this section and the next section is what's going to fall in below and in between those sections. So if we look at this one, this is how all the address information shows up here, as well as how all the tax exempt info is showing, as well as our all types section, is because all of those checklist template items fell in below the section that was added, and all of that is driven by this field order number. So that is why the order of the fields and when we set these up is also very important. If we wanted to take a current checklist template and clone it, so to speak, we could also go here and select the template items we wish to carry over and then click new template, and this is going to automatically set up and fill out for us a new checklist template and its template items, and then we can make our modifications if we need to clone a checklist after we've already set one up. And this is how we would set up our checklist templates within the Legendary Supply Chain application. Thank you.